Welcome to another episode of the Speakeasy podcast, powered by HireEasy and the Outbound Recruiting Academy and community. I am thrilled to have our special guest, James Dyson Jr. He's a veteran in talent acquisition, the founder, principal at Think Evolutionary Consultants, with over 20 years of experience across diverse sectors, including government contracting, technology, healthcare, and telecommunications. He specializes in crafting innovative talent strategies. He will be an upcoming speaker at the Recruit DC conference in June. And we have a sneak peek on what he's going to be talking about during this conversation. So, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Dan. I appreciate it. That was a great intro, man.
Tell the audience how you got into talent acquisition and kind of get me up to speed.
Currently, Think Evolutionary, we are a fractional consulting, recruiting consulting firm. So, helping startups, primarily, we're working kind of in the government contracting space, helping government contractors really solve their talent problems that they continually have year after year.
For the listeners, what exactly is fractional recruiting? How does it differ from the traditional recruiting methods that are out there?
So fractional recruiting, a lot of times people think of it as, is it part-time? Is it a consultant? It's somewhere in between a part-time executive and a consultant with being a mentorship program being thrown in there for kind of good measure. You pay for what you need as long as you need it. And you get some of their time and all of their experience with it. You're able to get somebody that has this wealth of experience and knowledge in for a fraction of their time and a fraction of the cost. So that's where you get the fractional aspect of it. I think a lot of times it's a win-win for both sides because you can really set up organizations to succeed in the future. Normally you'd be paying 200, 300K for their salary if you would hire them, but you're paying a fraction of that cost for a certain time to be able to get all of their experience and all of their help to move your organization forward.
Why did you pick this model versus the traditional third party agency style when you're partnering up with organizations?
Yeah, I think for one, there's obviously a saturation in the market of tons of staffing agencies. You have large agencies that have been around for years. You have small niche agencies that are driving in and they're going direct placements, contingent hires. Those are a dime a dozen. But the problem still persists with a lot of organizations that they still have talent challenges because it's not really just finding the bodies and putting them in the seat. It's an organizational issue, their process, their policies. That's what's wrong with the company is why their talent acquisition doesn't continually succeed as they need. They don't know how to keep talent. They struggle trying to find talent within a certain time frame and they all have the same problem. So it's not necessarily going out and get a better agency or who has a better mousetrap. It's being able to build a better process within the organization to make it work for you. And each organization is different. There's no one solution that fits everybody. With this approach, it allows me and the organization to help individual groups and individual companies really figure out what their path to success is when it comes to finding talent.
What do you think the biggest barrier for companies when you approach them in this type of model versus the traditional recruiting?
I think the biggest thing is they don't understand talent acquisition. They really see talent acquisition as a low cost fulfillment center. And that's their mentality and that's their approach to it. They think of talent acquisition is very tactical. And I think a lot of times that's why they go to agencies. And their approach is I need to get somebody in this seat as fast and as cheap as possible to be able to, for me to succeed. That's how so many companies have done it in the past. You have government contractors that fashion themselves as consultants to the government, but they're really just staff aug organizations. So they function just like staffing agencies, whether it's their ego or their mentality is that they don't understand that. So they approach it as if they're going after it like Accenture or Booz, who are large consulting firms who've been doing the consulting aspect and their talent models are way different. than what you would have for a staff aug. It's always been kind of viewed as, hey, I can go recruit. We've all heard that, whether it's a program manager or director, it's like, when I started this company, I recruited the first 50 people into the organization. It's like, that's great. You talk to your network and you had people that could come over, but that does not make you a recruiter. You just went to your network and you just connected with people. You did a good job of pulsing your network and pulling people in, but you're not a recruiter and you don't understand recruiting tactics of being able to go out to get people outside of your network. And that becomes the challenge to a lot of these organizations. A lot of times, even talent acquisition leaders they don't feel that they're strategic partners to their organization. Only 32% of talent leaders feel that they are actually strategic partners to their organization. That's low. And that's the challenge, is getting organizations to become more invested in talent as a forward thinking and forward leaning type of organization, rather than just simply being reactive to everything. As a job comes out, oh, I got to go fill this job now. Or, oh, I got to backfill this position. Or, oh, I got to do that.
How have you witnessed the evolution of recruiting practices? And what do you believe the key drivers behind those changes within the GovCon space?
Technology has greatly improved since the days of back when I originally started in staffing, and it was dialing for dollars, which you would just grab the yellow pages or grab the directory of the types of people that you were looking for, and just literally just with a highlighter and pencil, just going down, writing through the book. Then became Monster, Career Builder. Then you had, Indeed took over after that. And then you can just see the progression of the technology as it's gone now. And now you have, AI tools. The ATS systems are better. Yeah, hire easy. I mean, just being able to have an ATS that you can do so much within the actual system itself that you don't need all of these larger, more expensive tools outside, because now you can just do it within your system. You can pulse your own internal network and keep that market going with a marketing drip campaign, sending emails from the system that you don't have to manually do. All of that is a game changer for recruiters, because the biggest thing from recruiting is time. How much time can I save my recruiters from doing the administrative duties, that they can actually talk to people and do the assessment and finding out who, what, when, and where are they a fit for their organization?
How does talent acquisition in the government contracting differ from other industries, and what unique challenges does it present currently right now?
Everything for the government is compliance. That's the biggest thing with talent acquisition, is making sure that you can cover yourself, CYA, everything from your job posting to your initial screening, coming through your interview process to your actual hire. Because depending on the size of your organization, you're having to answer to the EEOC, OFCCP. And that's the biggest thing for government contractors, that they don't understand or they don't realize, especially for small, whether they were 8A companies coming up, and they kind of just did whatever they had to do to get there, to get those contracts, and however they found the people, they found them. And it's like, okay, you can keep operating like that until a certain threshold. And then when you get there, OSCCP will come knocking on your door and say, hey, congratulations for being a successful government contractor. We want to review your recruiting files. How are you tracking the people coming into the system? Are they considered an internet candidate? What are your steps to make sure that you're determining who is a viable candidate and who's not a viable candidate, and seeing the disposition codes and doing all of that? There's just a lot of steps to cover from government contracting that you don't have so much out in the commercial world. The commercial world, you still have EEOC and making sure that you're hiring people right and that you're taking care of them, but you don't have the level of scrutiny that an OFCCP can come into you and say, open up your books. We need to take a look at that.
I assume diversity and inclusion has a huge part into this.
DEI is coming under a lot of fire for all the wrong reasons. It's an approach that you need from your talent aspect, just being able to find more talent. I've always used the fishing analogy. It's like if we're gonna go fishing and we're only gonna go fishing in the Atlantic Ocean, it's a big ocean, but you're gonna find a lot of fish. But after a while, you every other company are in the Atlantic Ocean finding that one fish that you need in your organization, you almost kind of have to find them, keep it in this cooler to keep it alive to sell it later on. You have to go look in different oceans. You have to go look in different lakes. You have to travel to different places and see where you can find these types of fish. And that's where you really, from a diversity aspect, that's what that gives you. And it's not necessarily that you're targeting people of color or women or veterans, but these individuals have historically been not the main focus when it comes to recruiting. You know, you've always heard in recruiting, tier one, tier two schools primarily have always been non-historically black colleges, non-women college. It's always been your Princetons, your Yales, your larger schools from that aspect, which is fine. You need to do recruiting there. But those other schools and those schools that cater to diversity, they're just as impactful as those other schools as well too. So being able to broaden your scope is hypercritical, especially now and finding talent. And I think one of the things and it's interesting, just today I read that OPM is now switching to a skills-based model for interviewing. So they've essentially said, we don't care how you got the skills, whether you got a degree, whether you went through community college, whether you just did a bunch of online courses. And if you're certified and you did it, we want to interview you and we'll take a look at you. It's OPM, but that's still a government agency that's doing this model. And I think they're going to have a lot of success at it. And I think a lot of other government agencies are going to move to this model.
When you are bidding on the contract, does those things take into account when they choose the person that wins that contract?
Yeah. I think what happens typically with government contracts, it's a staff aug contract that they just really need butts and seat type of thing. So the government is putting out a bid and they say, we need somebody with these specific skill sets to do this role. Being able to find more people that have at least had that experience or that type of degree, whether they're still asking that for now, because a lot of those staff aug contracts require some type of degree or something from there. It just allows you a faster or bigger pool to pull from to fill these roles a lot quicker. That's the advantage of having that from a staff aug perspective. You want to build a bench. And nowadays, I know a lot of companies, they can't do what consulting firms used to do. I used to work for Accenture years ago, and Accenture it was like a living bench. And they would just say, when positions would come in, they would first turn to that bench and say, who do we have that's not working or that we can pull off or is coming off soon that we can move to this project? And that's how they were able to fill these things so quickly. A lot of, especially small organizations, can't keep paying people and not working. So you have to build what I've termed an invisible bench. You have to build your stockade of resumes, your profiles, the roles that you're going to be needing to fill. But then you have to start marketing and branding to these people so they know who you are. Because if it's constantly a cold reach out to them, you're always externally hiring and you're never going to be able to get your time to fill in below what is now the average time to fill of 44 days for any type of tech positions is about 42 to 44 days.
Creating that strong employer brand is crucial for attracting those top talent, as well as having that personal brand to back it up of
Yeah.
what you say you will do. And reputation has a lot to do with it within recruiting in general, but I
Yeah.
assume even more so within the space because everybody knows everybody. What strategies have you found most effective in building that authentic and appealing employer and personal brand?
I think for companies, it is really be who you are. I'll give an example. There are companies that use DEI as a marketing and branding kind of tool. And there are companies that use DEI truly as it was meant to be, as a organizational growth. That is their culture. That is how they want their people to understand, believe, and grow. The company has to be themselves because they will attract those individuals. People who use kind of DEI as marketing and branding, you're probably going to get those people who feel that way about DEI. It's great if it helps us get people in to win, but maybe we really don't follow the values to the core. I tell companies, what do you all really believe right now? What are your foundational beliefs? And that's top down. There's no grassroots culture that you can push up. You can't take organizations who have ERGs and they use that as an example. It's like, well, we have ERGs that help support different areas in the group. If the ERGs are just there as like talk boxes, then that's what it is. Be who you are, but it has to be top down. And it has to be more than just the CEO and COO and your C-suite just talking about it. They actually have to do something about it and they have to show it and they have to prove it. That's where you get into building those strategies of whatever works for them can work for them, but they have to be honest about it and they have to actually do it. And if they don't want to do it, then don't do it.
What advice would you give to a small business owner or startups looking to break into government contracting in terms of talent acquisition and recruiting?
Yeah, really telling them to understand what their market is. What area are you going in? Are you actually providing kind of a consultant type of mentality, or are you just really looking to do staff aug? If you're just going after contracts and you're saying, hey, we're going to put, 52 butts in this seat, or we got a contract, we need 10 people here, 10 people here. We're going to get on this GWAC and as the task order comes out, we're going to just put people on those task orders. If that's how you're going to go, then you need a kind of a more of a heavy volume recruiting approach to what you're doing. So you're going to need a recruiting team and you need to build your team and make it scalable to the number of positions that you have coming in and also to the number of proposals that you're pushing out because you're having to match that volume of work that's going out. It's still going to be way cheaper to pay a recruiter to stay in-house to work on your full-time roles if there is a long enough break and then also work on your proposal roles. Then when it gets to the point that they're becoming more overlapping, now you need to start looking at hiring another recruiter to do your proposal and to do your direct hires. Because if you're forcing the recruiter to kind of balance the two, your direct hires time to fill will always suffer because the proposal is such an intense time of I need bodies, I need people, I got to find them, I got to get them. So 2, 3 months, I got to focus on this proposal that kills my direct placements over there. So it's understanding the model that you want and then building your team out from it. You can outsource your proposal recruiting to a certain extent. If you know that you're only chasing a couple of proposals a month and that you can bring in an hourly recruiter just to do the proposals and sourcing, do that until it becomes a larger scale. And then once you scale up, you hire in. Building a recruiting organization, it's a living, breathing organization. You have to be able to take a inhale when it slows down a little bit. And then as it exhales, be able to grow and expand more out from that. And that's the challenge to small businesses being able to come in. It's just understanding that mentality of instead of it being, I just need a low cost fulfillment center.
How do you navigate the complexities of security clearances and certifications when recruiting for government contracts?
Finding anybody above top secret with polygraph. Nowadays, you need to be connected to individuals because a lot of them, they don't put it on their resume. If you don't necessarily know what you're looking for in certain people, then you could blow right past people. There's the largest resource out there right now, and that's still clearancejobs.com. They're truly still the one source to go look for resumes.
Are these people on LinkedIn? What's the approach of contacting these individuals?
Yeah, a lot of times, if you can find them, they like emails, or a lot of times they still do, whether it's like virtual or actual like meetup groups and just knowing kind of the groups. And a lot of times they will come to you if they know that you're kind of a trusted recruiter and in that market. to know those positions. That clearance recruiter is really like a BD person that once you get into the market, they now know you and you can contact people and people will contact you. They do post some in LinkedIn, but again, once you start getting to those higher clearances is where you really have to kind of dive into your bag of networks to kind of get out there and find those people.
I love this space so much because it goes back to the human touch of recruiting and going to conferences and building a personal brand that extends farther than a handshake. And building those relationships is key. One of the well-known recruiting conferences is Recruit DC, and you're one of the speakers. Walk us through what you'll be speaking on and give us a little sneak peek on why somebody would come to your session versus the other speakers.
I had the honor of speaking at Recruit DC this year. My topic is called Beyond Tokenism, addressing the subtle barriers in today's workplaces. And really, we're just going to talk about what tokenism is and how it impacts people in organization. And a lot of times people think of tokenism that is just whether it's like black or brown people, but you have it as far, especially women, you have it as far as people with disabilities, veterans. It can be anybody. And understanding that just because you have one person in the room or in that space doesn't mean that you've solved the problem. I'm going to be asking questions. I'm hoping to get good responses back from there. The biggest problem with a lot of stuff with DEI and whether it's kind of equity issues, racial issues, class issues, is that people just don't want to talk honestly about it, just to understand what's happening, like what's going on. You can't solve problems by either just sweeping it under the rug or having a conversation about it, or it's same thing I've always said about bias training. Like bias training is not a course you can take. It's like therapy. That's ongoing. You're trying to change people's minds who have been thinking this way for 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years, So having a yearly one-time thing that they take just to say, yeah, we took something on bias, you're just checking a box. My goal is to have people go like, okay, I didn't know that, or at least this is something for me to think about. I may not agree with everything that I say or that he says, but I now can understand it because I'm seeing it through somebody else's shoes or somebody else's eyes. And that's the biggest thing with this, being able to see something through somebody else's how they view it and how they understand it, to understand how it impacts them.
I think the year of 2024 and 25 is going to be the years of community.
Yeah.
How do you think community and conferences have made an impact in your career?
You meet lots of other people. You learn things that you didn't think about. You hear conversations, different approaches, different strategies, different techniques that you never thought about because you in your world never had to deal with that. That's something that you find at conferences and in communities, and being able to talk with people, whether they're like-minded or they disagree with you. Like both are good as long as you have humanly discourse of just being able to have a conversation with each other. We're not always going to agree, but we can talk through them. And I think that's the big thing. And I think moving forward, especially after the pandemic, like everybody has kind of been itching to get back out. You started seeing a little bit in, 2021, everybody's just kind of getting their feelers back. And then 2022, it was like a little bit more. Now it's like everybody's like, yep, we can go back, we can do these things. Let's set this up. Let's figure out how we want to do. So I think people coming to Recruit DC, it's an amazing collection of different recruiting talent, different recruiting strategies in an area. DC area is very unique when it comes to talent acquisition, similar to how you would say Silicon Valley is. They have their way that they do talent acquisition. And a lot of that you see in a lot of West Coast conferences down in Austin, where they do SourceCon, that type of thing, and those approaches. But I think at Recruit DC, you find a lot of very good strategies and approaches to so many different things within talent acquisition that it just can't be beat.
Can you tell us about maybe a leader that you've worked with that stood out among the rest that made a huge impact on your career?
Yeah, I will say Bridget Friedman, who was my recruiting manager at L3. And Bridget had a huge impact on me because Bridget allowed me to just be me. I could talk to the individual, really figure out what they were looking for from a skills perspective, and then also find out how their personalities worked to see, like, okay, you're going to work better with this person than that person. Even though that person has way more skills, you're just is going to be more effective with you. And that was kind of my superpower, especially at that time, and she was able to draw that out of me.
Who comes to mind of that up and coming star within the GovCon space, the recruiting space that is making huge impact within this community?
Benjamin Minna has been killing it everywhere. Personally, to me, not only just a great friend, but just somebody that I look at and look up to, and really seeing how he has kind of embraced the community. He's been a key voice. Just watching him connect with groups. Hey, join this group, join this group, join this group, join this group. And for a while, I was like, man, it's so many different organizations. And he was providing input in all of them. And now, I look at him on the Elite Recruiter podcast that he has going on. Benjamin is also speaking at Recruit DC, so that's he'll be there as well too. I think he is well on his way to doing great things, especially in the talent acquisition space. And he's, on top of that, he's a phenomenal recruiter, being able to find people all over the place.
Last question. As you reflect on your whole career, professionally, personally, what is the proudest accomplishment that comes to mind?
Personally, it's still my little girl. That's seeing her thrive every day, seeing her grow, and really trying to give her the opportunities that I never had. I want to give her the belief in herself that she can do anything that she wants to do. She can do anything, she can be anything, and that she's loved, like, completely. I would say professionally is starting this company and kind of sticking with it now, and then, really feeling good just kind of about, my current business model, and really looking forward to meeting new customers, meeting new clients, and really helping them. I still think that there is still more yet to come for me. So I tend to, from a professional standpoint, it's still more of that's still something yet to come.
Anything that you want to share with the audience as we wrap up?
No, I just want to say thank you for the opportunity, Dan. I really appreciate this. You guys and Hire Easy are an amazing advocates in the community, being able to put, individuals like myself out on the forefront, being able to put us out on the platforms. I just want to say thank you. Thank you to you personally.
Love it. Well, as we wrap up today, I want to just say thank you so much, James, for connecting with me and sharing your insights to the community. That's what I love about you, because you're authentic and you keep it real.
Okay.
Make sure you go to his session at Recruit DC on June 6th.
Yeah.
It's going to be an amazing presentation. Feel free to connect with him on LinkedIn, connect with his company. And if you need services in fractional recruiting, he is your go-to person. So thank you so much. Please get connected in the Hire Easy community, the Outbound Recruiting Academy, and check out the new Hire Easy CRM recruiting platform.